Hello, everybody. If you are joining me today, this is actually my first video on this channel. You can call me T-Wrench, mostly because we're going to wrench on some stuff. In front of me today, I have a 2009 Ford Escape XLT Edition. My wife and I bought this about 2.5 years ago. She was having some difficulties with the title for her 2019 Hyundai Tucson. And this was a really great find for us. The only issues it seemingly had was a leak from rust and oxidation in the fuel tank, which has been fixed, and then an exhaust leak. Since I've driven it, and I've actually found some issues developing with it. Specifically, front brakes need redone. I believe one of the calipers is bad, getting some pretty bad brake sticking after I drive it for so long. Exhaust leak is still there. We're going to get that fixed here soon. And then another issue that's driving me nuts is the vapor canister and or purge valves, which here is one of them, if I can locate it. There she is right there with the electrical connector right next to the throttle body. So that is the one inside of the engine bay. There is another purge valve up underneath the driver's side of the car right at the canister. And I will show you the new part. So what is going on here is when I refuel the vehicle and I fill the tank up with gas, when I go to start the engine, it stalls out constantly. It idles really rough and then it'll stall out. And I have to actually sit the car for probably 5 to 10 minutes before I can get the dang thing to start. I did check the vehicle with an OBD2 sensor, which I have right here. Not everybody has these. I actually picked this up at Harbor Freight probably 5 or 6 years ago, and even the smaller one is fairly expensive. But anybody that has any type of issue with their vehicle can go to their nearest auto parts store, typically Advanced Auto, AutoZone, or O'Reilly Auto Parts. And typically those companies will provide the scan service for free. That typically gives you any kind of codes that are coming off of the ECM or MCM, essentially the vehicle's computer, picking up any type of failing sensors or irregular readings from sensors to kind of help narrow down the issue. I definitely received several codes off of this related to EVAP purge valves. So I had originally wanted to replace the two purge valves, the one in the canister and the one at the engine bay at the throttle body. But when I pulled the original vapor canister off, it was saturated with fuel. So essentially liquid gasoline was pouring out of this thing. Right here is the purge valve on the canister. When we get the old one out, you can see I had originally bought this valve, but once I realized that the canister was purged, I decided to order the whole canister. And typically they do come with this purge valve pre-installed. So we're going to get this in today. We're also going to replace the, I keep losing my words. We're going to replace the purge valve that's at the throttle body in the engine. And I'm going to take you guys along with me to see how that's done. Now, a lot of the times you will want to jack up a vehicle and put some jack stands underneath of it, which I do have that stuff right there. But I think I'm a small enough guy and the car's up high enough, I think I can actually do this whole job without any jack stands or jacking the vehicle up at all. So we're going to see how that goes today. Now, anytime you're working in gravel, like I am, it is wonderful to set something up underneath of you. And in this case, I actually have a sheet of linoleum that was left at the house when we purchased it. I'm not sure where they use this at because this linoleum's not used anywhere inside of our house. But anyway, this is a perfectly good use for this scrap piece of linoleum. I'm going to lay this down on top of the gravel. That way I'm not getting gravel stuck in my hoodie all day. And it kind of blunts the blow of the sharp edges of the gravel. Now, fuel tank, vapor canister. So this vapor canister, it doesn't look like the one that I have in the box, but that's simply because there's a cover in place. Here's where all of our lines are connecting to the nozzles that you saw, or the nipples that you saw at the end of the canister. So we're going to have to pull each one of these off and make sure that they go to the correct one. Now these are significantly different, I would say, so it's going to be kind of hard to mix them up, but we can mark them if we feel it's necessary. Now, to get this sucker off of here, these bolts right here are technically from the cover to the canister itself. These will not get the canister off the bottom of the vehicle. The cover will have to be removed first. The lines will have to be disconnected, and then we can pull the vapor canister up out of this tray or cover. So you can see right here, there was a stud and nut combo that has since broke. So we're running with 3 studs and or bolts. I believe the 2 on that end are bolts. The 2 on this end are stud and nut combinations. So if we can see that one, it's not quite clear, but regardless, we can see it. So we're going to work on getting those out, and then we will continue. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to try to take these lines off. And these plastic clips, they are pretty basic, but if you see this guy right here, this is a retainer clip for this connection. And right at the top, you can see this one at the bottom. It's got 2 tabs that you essentially squeeze together. And it takes the tension off, and then the plastic clip can pop up. And then from there, boop, yep, just like that, we can actually slide these hoses off. So this is one. And if you have a little bit of trouble wiggling these off, that's normal. These things are a booger. Just try to wiggle it back and forth, left and right, as you pull back on it, and typically she'll slide right off of there. So there's the first one off. Let's get this guy off. Whoop. And this one's actually going to go towards the fuel tank. And she's off. She's off there. Wonderful. All right. That's fantastic. I actually wish this were set up a little higher. Actually, that can be what that's used for. Boom, right there. All right. So now we're going to take the bolts off. And we're missing that one. So these are, the hex heads are a 10 millimeter size. In this scenario, I am using a 3-inch extension to make this reach easier. And you can take these completely off with a ratcheting wrench, extension, and socket. But for me to speed this job up a little bit, I am going to use an electric ratcheting wrench. So we got 2 out of the 3 loose. We'll find this third one back here, and we'll get it turned loose. And all 3 of them are loose. Now you notice I did not disconnect this third hose, and that is because of access. You really got to get this unit dropped down before I can access that last connector. All right, now we're going to use the good old electric ratchet. To get these bad boys off a lot faster. And for whatever reason, this guy's not actually wanting to come off. I hope it did not spin the stud. It did not. There's one piece. And getting a little further up underneath. If I can get on it. And there we are. And the bolt is out. Okay, now with one bolt remaining, the sucker is going to want to fall down on top of my head. And when you're laying up underneath of a vehicle like this, it is always smart to engage the parking brake, just so the vehicle doesn't have really any chance of rolling. It would also be smart to block the tires, which I did not do, because I like to live on the edge. Alright, we got all 3 bolts out. Now this is going to drop down, and it's not too heavy. I want to say it's probably around, if not less than 10 pounds. We have an electrical connection right here that I forgot to show. But if your canister has any of these metal clips in it that sit over top of the studs, which the nut was on this side, those clips actually grip onto that stud a good bit, so you may have to pry it to get it off. Typically just wiggling her back and forth will do the trick, but if not, I do have a pry bar. And this guy is sticking. So we're going to pop in the vehicle. Grab us our little pry bar here. And we're going to try to just get this metal clip off of here. I don't know why we got to have these, but they can be a booger. Alright. This is almost in knuckle busting territory here. There she comes. Alright. Now I did just lose a plastic clip for our fuel line up top. We are going to try to get that reclipped back in position if we can. I'm not exactly sure where it broke. It almost looks like we lost a nut through the hole here, but we will try to get that squared back up. And that appears to be a fuel line, not a brake line. So anyway, now that we come down here, you can see if I lift up, we have this hose right here that needs to come off. It's just a rubber connection over top of the nipple, pretty easy to pull off. But then we also have this electrical connector here that is for the purge valve. So typically I find it easiest to, or I guess I've only done this once, but I found it easier to make this connection first rather than try to actually reach down in here and disconnect the purge valve. So essentially we'll have this short string of cable still attached to the canister when we pull this out of here. And when we got to put the new canister in, we'll take that off of the old purge valve and put it onto the new one. So let's get that situated, shall we? Yeah, that was sitting up way too high earlier. We're good now. All right, so I'm gonna pull this rubber hose off of here first. And typically you just twist it, you know, in a circular pattern. We just twist it like this while we pull. It'll come off there pretty easy. Now this, if you can read, this rubber line was on the vent nipple. Should be pretty easy to distinguish and decide, considering right here we still have 2 partial lines fixed to the nipples. These ends at the canister. So it should be pretty easy to figure out which goes where. These 2 are the more likely to get confused. So we'll make sure we take these off and put them on the new canister one at a time so we don't get them mixed up. Last but not least, we have the electrical connector right here, which typically you just push in right here on this tab. You'll hear it snap free, and then you can pull the connection apart. So if I can get a good angle on the camera here, we'll take a look at that. There we go. Steady. All right. Hear the click, maybe. I don't know if the mic picked it up or not. But boom, came right apart. Now I've driven this vehicle and to get it at a level spot in our driveway. Let us see if any fuel comes out of it again. All right. I don't actually see any fuel coming out of it this time. But I did not recently fill it up with fuel. So here is yet another plastic clip that would have been under the chassis of the car, clipping in fuel line, brake line. So I'll set this over here with the other one to keep them together. All right, and there we go. There's our vapor canister. We'll find out, won't we? Yep. All right, there we go. We got a good angle. All right, so let's get our new canister over here. New. Old. All right. So, first thing we actually have to do is we have to take these nuts off. This is going to be a hex head bolt that's through to a nut. Now, I believe these are also 10 mil. They are. Well, we're probably going to have to double up here because of the nature of the nut bolt combo. One of these is just likely to continue to spin. So let's get another 10 millimeter. If we have another 10 millimeter, we do. It is definitely for the bigger ratchet. So let's grab the bigger ratchet real quick. And the extension. Maybe not the extension. We'll just use the ratchet underneath. Okay. We're going to put one device on the bolt, the other device on the nut. And they should come apart pretty easy once we get that broken loose. There she comes. There's one. Now I know that you guys cannot smell this through the screen, but holy smokes, does this thing smell like straight gas. Now what this vapor canister does is it is supposed to take excessive fumes from your fuel tank and essentially recycle them through the system so that they're not escaping through the atmosphere. And if your purge valves are damaged, or if the charcoal filter on the inside of your canister is saturated, then these things can completely malfunction, not recycle the vapor properly, and you'll have some idle issues. You definitely have some EVAP issues. You probably would not pass an emissions test with this canister being faulty or the purge valves being faulty. So this guy can cause a lot of problems. And there we are. Now, these bolts may not fall straight through. It doesn't matter as long as we don't lose them. All right. So the old canister would be ready to come up out of here if there weren't a zip tie right at this hose holding it in place, which we do have zip ties on hand, I believe, in my handy dandy toolbox. I lied. We do not have them on hand in my handy dandy toolbox. So that sucks. So I will have to run inside to grab the side cuts and a new zip tie. Now, something that we could do is simply just take the zip tie off and try to reuse it. And I guess I can try to do that so that we don't have to use additional parts. And I do have a pocket knife, box cutter in my pocket. Squeal on a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see this, but the zip tie right here. Hose is in the way, but right there, you can see it. So I'm surprised that not everybody knows this, but the tab inside of the zip tie that actually makes contact with the notching, if you wedge something very thin down inside of there and pry against the tab, you can actually get the zip tie apart to reuse it. Now this guy is an old zip tie. It has been through the ringer and underneath the car for quite some time. So I may not be able to reuse it, but we're going to try it. So can be beneficial if we have pliers to help us out to pull on the other end of the zip tie. And it feels like we're making some progress. It's just not wanting to come through. So it's being a little booger. All right. So that's not coming apart easy. So I'm not going to force it. Just going to end up breaking it anyway. If we do not have something to cut the zip tie with easily, something that I've found that works is just grabbing a hold of the connection point of the zip tie and turning it clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever your preference is. And eventually it'll snap that zip tie. Now I do have something to cut it with, but I'm just showing you this for the point of showing it to you. Now, is it easy? No. Does it work? Absolutely. So there we go. Got the zip tie apart. Did not crack anything here. Garbage. Now we can pull the whole vapor canister up out of here. Oh, I forgot there's a little plastic retaining clip right here. We may actually have to get a screwdriver back behind that to pry it up out. Or a pry bar if you got one. I actually do have a set. I think I left it in my other truck that's at the shop to remove this stuff with. It's a nice pry bar set that helps not damage these. Oh, hey, there we go. Now we got some fuel coming out. If you couldn't see it dripping, you can definitely see it wet inside of here. That is just wet fuel. No bueno. We're going to give this a little knock knock, get all the dust out of her. Not all, but most of the dust. And now we want to take these connections off and put them where they'll go on the new canister. Screwdriver in here and pry her off. They do make a little notch in this right here. It's where if you do have to get a tool like a pry bar in here, you can push in and pry back at the same time. A lot of times that'll help. They also do make some notches on the side to help with prying her off, but she is definitely stucky on there. You have to, pardon my language, we have a almost 2-year-old son, and he's probably getting pretty close to chit-chatting, so we are definitely watching what we say. Anyway, we come right off of the old device straight onto the new device. Just going to blow down in the side of there a little bit, make sure there's not too much dust in it. It looks pretty clean. It's just the outside that's dirty. So I'll pop that guy in place. On to the next one. So you can see that these are labeled. This one that had all the fuel dumping out of it is for the tank. And then this other one right here is labeled Purge. I'm not sure if you can see it. But these clips are the same as the other ones that we disassembled. So we got these 2 plastic tabs here that are part of the retaining clip that we'll squeeze in, and then we can get the retainer loose. So I'm going to take off the Purge first. Like I said, wiggler back and forth. You do not want these plastic fittings to break. They won't be fun to replace. And these do have O-rings down inside of them to help seal. We'll look down in there, make sure it's not broke or busted. It's the yellow O-ring down in there. So that come off the Purge port. So we'll come over here, find the Purge port, and then we'll snap this bad boy on here. And you'll push it pretty hard until you feel a hard stop. You can't push it anymore. We'll snap the clip in place, and then what we'll do is we'll try to pull her off of there. Not too much force, about the same as it took to push her back on. But if you can't slide her up and down, then you know she's on there nice. So there's one. Now we got to get the plastic clip off the other. This one's a little bit bigger, so it takes a little bit more force to get that out of there. And she's really being a booger. Boom, she's off. Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. It's the wife yelling at me. So that guy came off a lot easier, but this one does also have a yellow O-ring down inside of it. We'll just take a quick glance down in there. Make sure it's fine. Looks fine to me, but I do see liquid gas in there. So I'm going to try to knock that out. I don't think I want to blow it out. That could end up being very bad for me, getting too much gas in my system. Yeah, I could use shop hose, but I don't think the little amount of gas that's inside of here is actually going to damage the new canister. It's a very small amount. So I'm just going to keep my mouth away from the part and blow down into it. And hopefully that helps dry out that liquid gas that's down inside. And it does look a lot better. So now we'll put her on. Feels like that's as far as she's going to go. Snap the clip on, try to pull her off, and she's not going anywhere. All right. So, out with the old, and in with the new. Now, I can tell you that this, even with the connectors on it, feels a lot lighter than this old one. And you can see there's just gasoline dumping right out of this. So, there's definitely a bunch of liquid fuel stuck up inside of that canister, up inside the charcoal filters. So, it needs replaced anyway. All right. Now, we're going to put all our hardware back in here and get the thing fixed in position. And the assembly process is going to be an exact inverse of the disassembly process. The first bolt I'm going to start with the nut is one here in the back, because the bolt itself is not retained up in the cover or the housing. So that's going to be the hardest one to work with here. And a good idea, you didn't see me do it because I don't have the bottle on me, but a good idea is anytime you're putting something together and you see a thread locker on the bolt, I'll move the camera here, but if you can see the blue on the thread of this bolt, that would have been a medium strength thread locker. Anytime you see that, on a fastener, it's a good idea to replace it with new. I do not have the bottle with me. I need to get this done, so I'm just going to make sure that their torque's pretty tight, that they're tightened up real well, and we'll go from there. Luckily, this canister sitting inside of this plastic cover is not directly fixed to the chassis of the car. So if these do come loose at any point in time, this canister is really not going anywhere. It might vibrate around, cause a noise, juggle some things up inside of here. But just going to do my best to get everything tight, and hopefully the next time I'm at the auto shop store, I'll get a bottle of blue Loctite. All right. All right, maybe set her up so we can see what we're doing here. We're going to turn our ratcheting wrench to tight. All right, so this automatic ratcheting wrench, battery powered ratcheting wrench, states that it can put about 35 pounds of torque on to the fasteners. I don't think that was quite 35. I was not squeezing the trigger as hard as possible, or as I wasn't pressing it down all the way. So I'm leaving a little bit off here, but I just don't want to strip the bolt or shear the bolt off. All right, this one is pretty easy to see. So we'll get this guy right here. I'll lay her down. I lost it. Putting the ratcheting wrench up underneath. Tightening direction. Battery powered ratcheting wrench up top. The other side of this is that these are plastic legs. So if we do over tighten these nuts, we do have the potential of cracking this plastic. And that we do not want to do. All right. We'll get on the last bolt here. Trying to wedge this up so you guys can see it. And I'll start her on there by hand. It's always a good idea to start your fasteners by hand so that you can feel that they're not cross-threaded. If you cross-thread something in here, it's probably never going to go back together right again. Oh, so we actually had our ratchet flipped at one point in time. Don't know how that happened, but gotta make sure she's going in the right direction again. Now, there are better ways to set this up. The only reason I'm doing it like this is so you guys can see it a little bit better. And she spun on me. That'll get cut. All right. She feels tight enough. All right. So we got her in there all nice and tight. We got this plastic clip put back in to keep the actual cable for the sensor routed properly. Looks like there was another one down here on this side, which has broken. Now, where there was a zip tie right here, should we replace it? Probably. I have zip ties regularly available. I just got to go inside and actually get the darn thing. So, all right. So, anything you take off, it is ideal to replace it. In this case, I have a zip tie on hand. So I am going to fish it through here and get this line strapped down. All right, she's in there real nice. Yep. All right, so she's locked in. Now I have this nice cheap set of flush side cuts that I got from Walmart for like $5. They do a fantastic job at cutting these zip ties and getting them flush to where you won't cut yourself on the piece that's been cut. So, zip ties in place. Lines are connected, except for this one. It's still underneath the car. So, let's go put all this back. So, first things I'm going to do, reestablish the electrical connection right here. And when you put this back together, you should hear the plastic clip click. That's how you know you got it back together all the way. Now that guy just tucks up inside of here. No big deal. And then we have this hose going to the vent port of the canister. All right. So we got to get this clip back up in here. Boom. These plastic guys. And yeah, they are falling down. I'm pretty sure that they broke at the seam. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. See if I can't get the camera set back down. So these guys right here broke while I was taking the canister off. And typically this is the release down here on this side for these lines. And then it's hinged back here. Well, sadly enough, the hinge portion is what cracked. So if I want to fix this, I'm probably going to have to like zip tie it up. I could replace it, but you can kind of see what it's going to end up doing right now. Not good. No bueno. But these pockets are not actually through pockets. So I'm not sure how I would zip tie it. But this is definitely going to come off while I'm driving. This is potentially going to sag down a little bit. Not what we want. But the other one that broke off was up here. So I disconnected this line. I mean, these kind of just flung off of there. So, not good, but also not the end of the world. I mean, very crappy plastic parts. You're going to have that. All right. So let's put this guy back up here. Yeah, this one we're definitely going to lose. I mean, it doesn't even want to sit in there tight. One thing that I could do is I could zip tie the bottom portion around the brake lines. The brake lines are pretty rigid right here. They're definitely less likely to come off. Whereas the fuel line, I mean, once I have this hooked up to the canister, it's less likely to come down too. But just so I don't lose this piece, I'm going to try to zip tie it to the brake lines here. I will have to go get more zip ties, but that'll at least be a temporary fix, and it'll keep me from losing this plastic piece that I'll eventually have to replace anyway. Oh, all right. I'm at a slightly different angle now, but I found some zip ties. So, in order to fix this guy right here, I'm going to go, I think, up through somewhere here. This is going to be a little awkward. I didn't really have this thought through all that well. Oh, I can slide through the top here. So this is good. I can slide in between the floor panel with this zip tie. So I do not have to fix it to the brake line, which is excellent. Not having to fix this to the brake line is excellent. This will essentially act as my new hinge. If I ever have to do anything with the brake line here, then I will simply cut the zip tie. And hopefully the other plastic holder that broke, I'll be able to sneak through the floor panel as well. I keep forgetting that I'm mic'd up, and I keep wanting to direct my voice directly at the camera. Just one of those stupid things. I haven't recorded a lot of videos, so not actually sure how well this is going. But we're giving her a shot. We're taking you guys on a ride with us. All right, I don't know if we can see the other one from where I'm at or not. We'll take a gander. I'll tell you what, the linoleum pad is making my life a lot better. A lot better. All right, so we'll get this guy up here. There, snapped in place. Now we'll see if we can also get in between this guy and the floor panel, and we can. Except for I lost hold of my zip tie. Yes, it looks like we have some pretty decent rust under here, but not anything that can't be fixed. This, while you hear rust coming off of that, this is still pretty solid. So, honestly, not bad for an older vehicle. So, all right, we got these tied up. So that's good. Now we still got these guys that we got to hook up. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get this sucker mounted first. So we're missing one bolt. No bueno. But we're going to get a view of it from this side. Now, because I have this stud nut combo here, I am actually going to start there. That's my easiest place to start. I don't have to try to walk a bolt in or start a bolt in over there. I can just line this guy up with that stud, start the nut. All right. Getting our bearings can be a little awkward, but there we are. And we'll try to get this started by hand. Got to get my arm up in there to hold it. Oh, it looks like we may have lost our plastic clip. Yeah, because it's not holding. Aha. We don't want to forget about this guy. Let's make sure this goes back on. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. She's on there. All right. There we go. She's at least clipped in place. So this is a little awkward with these lines in the way, but I can at least get that started by hand. Wonderful. Now we've lost this, so we can't really worry about it. Moving on to the first bolt on the other side. So, oh, that did not actually get started on this stud, so we got to go back to it. Actually get it started. I might run it with the ratcheting wrench here for a few turns just to make sure she's on there. That kind of took me by surprise a little bit. Yeah, she feels like she's going on. Let's get a couple turns on her. Like I said, all of this can be completed with hand tools. Ratcheting wrench, some sockets, whatever you got. If you don't have any of those tools, well, then why are you trying to do it? Just take it to a mechanic shop. Or start your first toolbox. Might as well. Sorry. Everybody's got to start somewhere. Legit. Alright, I know my arm keeps getting in the way. Right now I'm just trying to line up that other stud that's broke off. And it was giving me some trouble. Alright. Let's see if I can't find the hole. There she is. Alright. She feels started. If you're working under a vehicle like this, especially with some rust, it's always a good idea to put some safety glasses on. That way you're not getting a bunch of rust in your eyeballs. There's just a bunch of stuff that can fall out from underneath a car. And we don't want any of that getting in our eyeballs. It's not good for them. So I'm going to put my head in frame a little bit here, maybe. I really don't want you guys to have to worry about seeing my face. Focus should be on the vehicle parts. And making sure that they go in. All right. Okay, nice and tight. Nice and tight. And last one. Seems how I only got 3 left. Nice and tight. All right. So, we've got all the bolts tightened up. What's left? We got to do these connectors. So we got to slide them on, and we really want to make sure that they go on all the way. And then snap. Try to pull it. Not going anywhere. And then this guy, these were pretty easy to figure out which one goes where just because of the orientation. Like I said earlier, if we were worried about confusing them, then we could have marked them. Marked essentially one with a blue marker, one with a red marker, and then mark the lines the same way. That's a really easy way to kind of make sure all your stuff's going back together properly. Now this guy, it's easy for me to see that it's in all the way. If you guys can take a look. So what we're looking at right here is that this metal shoulder is actually up against the flat face of the plastic piece. So for this one, just because of the ability for me to see that, it's pretty easy to know that I've got her in there all the way. Secure the plastic clip. And guess what? We're done with the vapor canister. I am going to tuck this wire up inside of here just to make sure it's not hanging down, getting caught on anything. But that is the vapor canister replacement in a 2009 Ford Escape XLT. Took about an hour with the right part, with parts on hand, and then just taking everything off, putting the new in while recording and explaining. An hour, 5 minutes, 37 seconds, and I had to run over the house a couple times to get zip ties. So now we're going to go and replace the purge valve that's up in the engine bay at the throttle body. So let's see how that goes. All right. So I should have mentioned it earlier, but anytime that we're doing any type of electrical connector work where we're disconnecting, reconnecting, we should be disconnecting the negative terminal of the battery. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Should have done it before, but Better late than never. But we'll take our 8mm on this lug screw or lug nut. And when I say lug nut, I do not mean lug nut for your wheel. This is an electrical lug. Mechanics might actually have different terminology for it, but we just got to loosen this up a little bit to where this guy wiggles free. And then the negative terminal of the battery should come right off. Slide right up off there, and we want to make sure that it's not actually making contact with the battery. So I'm not sure what actually came first, the problem with the purge valves or the problem with the vapor canister. But I'm just going to replace everything. Luckily, these parts are pretty cheap. At least the purge valves are 20, 30 bucks, depending on the vehicle. It might run you a little bit more expensive if you have a higher end vehicle, but luckily for me, this one was 22 bucks. So it is quite hard to reach down in here and get these loosened up. So I'm going to go with 1/4 inch drive ratcheting wrench, pretty short, and the 8mm socket that's needed to take these 2 bolts out. Let's try to get the focus back on that part. Yes, right there. So we have a bolt right here below my finger, a little rusty, and a bolt right back here. It's hidden by this housing. Now I got the camera set up in a pretty good spot, so I'm not gonna move it. But now I did already have this off once, and I will say that one of these bolt heads is rounding off a little bit, so I think I have to go at it with the 5/16 instead of the 8mm, but we'll find out. So we got the 1 bolt broken loose. Very nice. All right. And we can get the next one broken loose to where we can get it out by hand. And yes, this is the one that's rounded off, but I was able to actually get it with the 8mm socket. So we lucked out there today. Now, right here, we have another hose connection. This also has a plastic connector on the end of it. We want to be very careful not to damage it. This is a little bit different than the ones that are at the canister underneath the car on the driver's side. This one in the engine bay has these 2 white tabs on the side that we need to push in simultaneously. And as we push them in, we need to pull up on the hose. So I'm going to try to do this to where you can see me do it, but it's kind of hard. Move our way. And now we'll go at these bolts that are loosened. We'll get them out with our fingers. And we will set them somewhere where we will not lose them. In this case, I'm going to put them right on top of the coil packs for the spark plugs. The ignition coils. All right, so we got both bolts out. Now, this guy, sorry if my hand was in the way there. This guy, it does have an O-ring seal inside of it. So, it can be a little bit of a booger to pull out. But it didn't actually seem too bad. Now, we have another electrical connector. A push tab button right here that we got to click off. And then boom, it's out. There we go. There's the old one. Let's go get the new one. All right. Old one, new one. Not much different. You can see I already had it on there once. I actually did change this out first. And then I went to change the purge valve that was at the vapor canister. And I realized a bunch of fuel was coming out of the canister. So I pulled this back off before I ever even started the vehicle. So this is just from where it mounted the last time. Typically your brand new parts won't have any rust on them. But so let's go ahead and put this guy in. All right. And I don't do this in exact reverse order. I will actually get the purge valve in first. Then I'm going to put the bolts in it just to make sure it's mounted properly. Then it's pretty easy for me to get the hose back on and the electrical connector back on. At least I think it's easier than trying to put all that stuff back together while it's loose. Kind of hope you guys are hearing all these crickets right now. They are quite relaxing. It is quite the beautiful November day. Today is November 1st, 2025, the year of our Lord. Trees are looking beautiful, even though most of them by us are actually dead at this point. No leaves. But I will turn around and show you the leaves out at our place for a split second, at least across the road from us. It's still got some yellow and still got some red. Wonderful day to be outside working on a vehicle. Let's get these tightened up. A little bit of a booger to get down in here, like I said, but where there's a will, there's a way. And with these smaller bolts, you do not want to over tighten these, especially inside of these plastic components. You run the risk of cracking the plastic, or you run the risk of stripping the bolt out or shearing the bolt off. I would imagine that the plastic housing and parts that they thread into would crack before the bolt would actually shear, but you just don't want to over tighten these. Not much good can come from it. So that's why I use anything I don't want to really over tighten. That's why I typically run a small 1/4 inch drive ratcheting wrench. Now, my hand is once again in the way, so let me move that and keep it out of the way this time. Something you want to do with something like this, there are actually rubber seals up underneath of here. And as you tighten down, the seal is going to squish. So now there is a metal piece down inside of here on the inside diameter of the rubber seal. But because of the nature of this rubber, you want to make sure that after you tighten the second side, the second bolt, that you also go back and retighten the first one just to make sure it's still tight, because as that rubber flexes and relaxes, you could end up losing some torque on the other side of this. It's pretty standard with anything that I'm tightening. I'll get the first bolt tight, do the second one, and then I'll go back to the first one just to make sure that I didn't relax, lose any torque, anything along those lines. So that feels pretty tight to me. I like it. Don't want to get it much tighter. Like I said, we'll come back to the first one. Get on it. And yeah, I mean, it loosened up just a little bit, but there, she feels nice and tight now. And we do not want to forget the electrical connector. So we'll slide that guy down in there. And she clicked. Very good. And last but not least, the hose. Now this, I do not have to do anything with the clip after the fact. I'm just going to push it down on here. Just going to push it down on, and we're going to hear it click. Hopefully that got picked up by my mic. So that is in there. All right. Now, technically, this is not finished until we reconnect the negative battery terminal. It was actually 5/16. So we'll run neutral down. And we'll get her tightened up. Then I'll find that socket that I just lost. And we'll be good to go. That will be one piece of this vehicle fixed. Now, if you see any rust or corrosion on these, it's a good idea to clean them and then put some dielectric grease on them. I had already done this to this vehicle in the past. You can see some rust down on the bottom of that lug, but I cleaned these up pretty good with a wire brush. Some sandpaper would work too. Not too much though. You don't want to get too aggressive with them or remove too much material, but clean them up, rough them up, get a lot of the rust off, and then take some dielectric grease. You can find it at Walmart. You can find it at any hardware store or auto parts store, and just grease them up. It'll keep them from getting corroded. All right, is she tight? Can I pull it up off of there? No, I cannot. Definitely always want to make sure that terminals are tight. A lot of issues that we run into with vehicles, especially electronic issues, a lot of times are just battery terminals being loose, the terminal connectors. So definitely want to make sure that these are tight. I'm actually going to go over the positive terminal now and just double check it, make sure it's tight. It's not going to hurt anything. Slightly different setup here, but it does feel tight. It's not coming up off of there, so we're good with that one. Probably don't need to be zoomed in anymore. I would have had perfectly good radius there. All right. Now, she is done, at least for now. So, in an hour and 24 minutes, we were able to change this purge valve for the EVAP system inside the engine bay. We were able to also change out the EVAP or vapor canister underneath the vehicle, right next to the fuel tank, without jacking anything up. I think that was a pretty quick fix for the issues that I was running into. Like I said, when I was fueling her up, when I was adding fuel to her, right there, you can see the nice Rock Auto magnets up there. But when I'd fuel her up and try to start her right after fueling, she would stall out. She'd idle real rough for a few seconds, have a heck of a time trying to start, and then she'd just stall out. Okay, everybody, a little bit of an update. I am at my local gas station. I filled her up with fuel. She was in between half a tank and a full tank. So I can confirm that the check engine light has been off since I drove it here. Now it's on right now, but she should go away once I start the car. But the big test is, will she start right away? She started right up. That is perfect. So check engine light's gone. Seems to have done the trick. Got rid of those OBD2 codes that were coming off, and now I don't have to worry about the dang thing stalling out every time I refuel it. So another good day's work. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe.